Hello, 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 hello. So, the Knuckles TV show is kind of getting a lot of flack right now. People are like, Knuckles deserves better. Wade got too much screen time. It's basically just the Wade show, right? But no, y'all don't get it. The Knuckles TV show has so much going on. I'm not the first person to talk about this, but I am here more specifically to tell you today that there are things that the Knuckles TV show does that make it better than the Sonic movies. Yeah, I hear you gasping. Right behind your screen right now. Well, I'm gonna tell you why. Right now. Talking about the Sonic movie. First one, I mean. As Sonic is presented, most of his character and opinions and whatnot seem to come from his situation. Obviously, Longclaw was killed. He lost his mentor and parental figure and so forth, just like any Disney or, in this case, Paramount character. As such, he has been deprived of many of the joys of life for 10 years. And he's just been completely alone, no one to talk to but himself. And as such, it kind of gives him a few endearing little quirks that he has, like he doesn't have an inside voice, or he talks to himself, and it's all just these cute little things, right? My phone fell, pardon that. And because he has been deprived of these things for so long, he has a much greater appreciation for a lot of the things of life that a lot of people, Tom especially, the Donut Lord, would consider to be quite, mundane or boring and so forth. Just regular living, you know, right? Sonic is passionate, so passionate about just lots of little things about life. He appreciates it in all of its aspects, making him, really relatable. You can see why he likes those things, but it, at the same time, kind of makes him rather enigmatic to Tom, right? I mean, Tom, he's kind of stuck in the mundane. And he wants to see, all the greater stuff that life has to offer, but, no, Sonic just appreciates what's already there. But, not only does Sonic have this appreciation for everything and making him, relatable. I mean, that's most of what that accomplishes, but it also gives him such a strong sense of morality. He knows without a doubt whose side he's on, what he likes, what kind of people he likes to spend time with, and so forth. That hedgehog knows what that hedgehog likes. I mean, this is great and all, but the problem is... who's that? Right? That's a very good and relatable and cute little 15-year-old teenage character, but does that sound like this guy right here? I don't know who that is. That's not the kind of character that Sonic is generally known to be, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that conceptually. But the thing is, for a lot of Sonic's appeal as a character in most Sonic media leading up to the Sonic movies, then he's generally been, most of his main character appeal seems to come from him having a lot of attributes that, his viewers, and especially Tails, can look up to, right? He's got leadership skills, he's, confident, and I mean, interpretations of this do vary between, different Sonic media. You get a much different interpretation in the IDW comics to the Archie comics, Sonic Colors and Sonic X. But Sonic generally, there seems to be a general focus on Sonic being a very role model type character, right? The Sonic movies are kind of the first one to really contradict that. The Sonic movies change this around hugely, giving Sonic all these kid-like attributes and emotional drives at just about every turn you can imagine. Probably in an attempt to make him a lot more endearing, after the ugly Sonic incident, It could be quite possible that he's intended to, character develop to be a little cooler, But if Sonic was intended to have, some character progression into a cooler character, then he clearly did not do so very quickly. You see, in the Sonic movie too, Tails is introduced. If there is any time for Sonic to be more role model-y or older brotherly, then that would definitely be the time to do that, right? In the second Sonic movie, Sonic's character doesn't really change that much. Like, he's still just about as immature as he was in the first movie, he just kind of is the same character laden upon with a lot more responsibility. And since he doesn't really have his traditional maturity, then his interactions with Tails, whose personality, may I add, seems largely unchanged from his regular appearances in the games, Sonic's interactions with Tails seem extremely forced. Oh, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog. Really? Tell me one way you can improve my self-esteem. I could dance uptown funk. That's on me. I set the bar too low. It was repeated a fair amount in the advertising for the second Sonic movie just how much Tails looks up to Sonic, but I have to wonder, like, why does he exactly? I mean, Sonic is a perfectly fine character as he was in that movie, but, like, he didn't really have any of the maturity or, like, ability to take control of a situation that Tails would really have the emotional need for. Like, a lot of Tails' issue, both in the games and in the second Sonic movie, was, like, his lack of self-esteem and the way that this anxiety of his kind of just gets in the way of him being his normal, brilliant self. And Sonic generally kind of provides him a lot of stability and belief in him and so forth. Just kind of having this confidence and a kind of cool-headedness to kind of bring Tails back to Earth, right? Kind of whip Tails out of his anxiety, funk, whatever thing he has going on. But the thing is, movie Sonic doesn't really have a cool head at all. The fact that they tried to represent Tails' lack of self-esteem, like, through a dance fight in Siberia, with all the Siberian people calling him freaks in their, like, Siberian accent. Not to mention the way Sonic, like, ended up fixing the situation by turning on Uptown Funk and dancing in a much more American, modern style fashion. I don't know. I don't know why that really should have helped Tails out in any respect at all. But that's just the kind of characters that they made for Sonic. Sonic wound up in these, like, really bizarre situations, and he, like, worked around that through, like, his own kind of, like, little kiddish perspective, right? He knows how to have fun, and he knows how to, like, bring that fun to other people, but that's not very helpful to Tails. But then, too, like I mentioned earlier, that it's quite possible that they may have intended for Sonic to character progress into a cooler character, but if that's the case, then why does Tails respect Sonic now? Like, I should think that the respect should be, like, a lot more gradually built up, but no, Tails just kinda is all in for Sonic just right off the get-go before he's even met the guy, right? Yeah, it seems like Sonic isn't really going to be character progressing into, like, anything much more similar to his normal game appearances at all, really, which is kind of a shame, because, I mean, they had a pretty good system in the games, right? Sonic's confidence and cool-headedness made him, like, really good leader material for all the other animal characters. You could, like, see why he was the leader of the group, as opposed to, I don't know, just some kind of side character, right? So then, as far as Sonic's character is concerned, like, I mean, in the original trailers for the Sonic movie, you know, he had some lines in there that didn't really make it into the full movie that kind of made him seem more like a sarcastic little son of a gun. So basically, it looks like I'm going to have to save your planet. Look at this! I took 9 million steps today! Smells like body spray and an old ham sandwich. You know, I kind of wonder if they, like, purposely removed those lines and, like, replaced them with more, like, cute or endearing ones. No, I'm afraid of the dark! To give Sonic that more, like, endearing presence to better go with his cuter design, right? There definitely seems to be some, like, swagger, coolness, or possibly whininess that they may have had to remove there. Whether keeping this sarcasm would have been better for his aesthetic and his relationship with Tails, I can't really say, but those things don't definitely seem to be very well achieved as it presently stands. But Knuckles, though. Oh boy. Knuckles, at least in my personal opinion, absolutely nails the role model stuff that Sonic, like, traditionally goes for and kind of seems to be lacking. Knuckles' character generally isn't particularly deep, but... with how well they showed off Knuckles' like, role model-ish traits, and like with just how cool and mature he is in the Knuckles TV show, nah. He doesn't have to be deep. He's the boss! This guy is just about the biggest role model I've ever seen. He was even used as a role model quite directly for Wade, as Wade, like, dressed up as Knuckles and acted as him in the rock opera The Flames of Disaster. Wade saw firsthand how Knuckles took both his successes and his failures as, like, motivation to keep going, to keep getting stronger. Wade saw the way that Knuckles achieved both confidence and teachability. And, indeed, as was the entire point of that rock opera, how Knuckles translated his sort of core spirit and, like, inner emotional strength, or heart, as they described it, into raw physical power and prowess. Knuckles and Sonic are both similar in the way that they are extremely steadfast in the things that they know they like. They have complete understandings of their personality, but they're just not sure how to apply it to the situation which they are in. But Knuckles takes that very concept to a whole another level, as he sees and explores how other people react to the way he acts. And how other people have, like, some of the same passions, some of the same drives as Knuckles himself does. As he turns his views and his identity outside of himself and kind of absorbs other people's perspectives like a red sponge. Indeed, Knuckles is surprisingly humble and relatively accepting of differences in perspective. He developed a deep relationship with both Wade and Wade's mom, noticing the things they had in common with him, seeking further information about each, making observations on the ways they deserve respect from him. You also train warriors. Knuckles puts into practice what Sonic only really used as cute character traits, allowing those traits to become aspects of both his awesomeness and his relatability. It kind of seems, in some respects, like what Sonic should have been the entire time. I legitimately couldn't ask for a better main character, nor a better interpretation of a character that I have already known and loved for years. Like, he took a lot of the same concepts as Sonic and just used them in such a cleaner context. Now, okay, there's the characterization of the individual main characters, but both of these shows have a very particular genre, that being like the sort of road trip buddy comedy shindig, right? They each have a buddy who is presumably driving the car. So here's the thing, right? The relationship between Sonic and the Donut Lord, Tom, is kind of separated, with a lot of focus on like how the two characters are very different from each other. Sonic had a lot of respect for Tom, as Tom protected Green Hills as its beloved police officer from a long line of the same. Tom protected the people he cared about as a living, and that's a very concept that Sonic had entirely lost the opportunity to do for himself. Tom, on the other hand, had to learn through Sonic just what it meant for him to achieve his own ambition in actually being like a more practical cop, right? He had to learn through his experience with Sonic just what it meant to really save a life and to have the respect of someone who you aren't really that close with yet. Both characters were very relatable and likable in the way that they perceived the other. Sonic just having all of this respect for Tom and Tom just kind of gaining a much new perspective from Sonic. But these perspectives, led to their conversations not really being able to carry much progression or rapport or back and forth really at all, as the characters were only starting to understand each other for the whole movie. Like, the kind of relationship they had, it feels like it should have been, like, developed past and beyond, like, pretty soon after it started, but they were in very early stages of their relationship for about as long as they can make the movie last. Quite unfortunately. Since their progression as buddies was kind of just not really there, then a lot of their conversations weren't really meaningful. They were limited to being, like, just random little jokes and things. Tom either not really putting up with Sonic's playful nature, or being rather long-suffering about it.
Now check this off the old bucket list, huh? Big night for you.
As such, any moments where Tom and Sonic really did seem to be in sync, or like they had very much progression, tended to be largely out of character.
What?
Like, we are not.
No, we're not cute.
We are a couple of loose cannons just living by our own rules.
Resulting in it kind of just looking like more of Tom throwing Sonic a bone, as he had done in other parts of the movie. Generally speaking, Tom didn't seem to know what to do with Sonic regardless of what the writers were trying to communicate there. Knuckles and Wade, on the other hand, their relationship had a lot of focus on the things that they had in common, like buried underneath all of their like differences in demeanor. They were very different when you just look at them for the first time, but then as they learned more about each other, they got to see just how much they really had in common. Both of them found each other interesting, and they asked each other about their life and interests. They learned from each other. They allowed themselves to see what they had in common, as well as like what differences they had that were like advantageous to each other. So, bowling is what makes you feel at home? 9 out of 10 warriors would call that a victory. You know what that feels like, don't you? To be betrayed. A major complaint had with this show rather frequently is that Wade just had too much screen time. But I can't disagree more. Everything Wade was taking up the screen time with was a reflection of Knuckles' own struggles. All of Wade's character development we ever see was learned straight from Knuckles, who was constantly an inspiration and a powerful friend to Wade. Wade and his family and his quest are all a massive allegory to the passions and trials of Knuckles himself. Honestly, I have never seen two characters more fully connected while still being so very distinct. This is the Sonic movies' character formula that they were kind of trying to achieve in a lot of ways the whole time, pretty much in its perfected and completed form.
Hey, this analysis isn't over yet. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you know exactly when part 2 comes out. Be sure to like and comment as well to show just how little you agree with me. With all that said, thank you very much for watching.